breaking through the noise as a brand, enhancing efficiency using AI, the efficacy of creator-led brands, and emerging trends in CPG. This week on the show, we have Ashwin Krishnawani, who runs both his agency Forge and the CPG brand Oklahoma Smokes. Welcome to In the Money, an exploration of whether you can still make money in D2C and CPG. We follow the flow of money between founders, investors, lenders, and everyone else in the ecosystem to ultimately answer the question, is D2C and CPG still a good business? Hope you'll enjoy the show. Hey, Ashwin. So no warm-ups here. We're going to dive straight in, hot takes only. I've had agency friends start brands, brand owners start agencies. What's a better way to make money? Because you've done both.
Neither. Build a software business.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's funny because I think there's every maybe 6 months or so, I see this meme on Twitter where someone says, hey, if your first business is so successful, why'd you go and start a second one? And I think it's funny because you see a lot of people on the agency side where they develop a certain skill set and then they talk about how the agency is so great, but then they start a CPG brand. And then vice versa, right? You see a lot of people in the CPG space going into the agency side or on the consulting side. And I think kind of seeing both sides of this, as well as knowing a lot of people who have done this, I think the agency model is one of those models that cash flows nicely because it's really just a services business. So if you keep it boutique or if you're outsourcing work, you can build up a pretty good book of business and then use that cash flow. So you have that cash flow that kind of supports you, but then you also have the kind of specific knowledge to go and, go build some brand or business. And I think a lot of people in the brand and CPG world realize, hey, even if this business is doing $1 million, $2 million, $5 million top line, there's not a whole lot of cash I'm able to pull out of it.
Yeah. I think one of the themes of this podcast is that putting a very pragmatic view on how hard it is to make money as a sub $20 million revenue e-commerce business, just due to the working capital need of not only fronting inventory, but fronting marketing spend. So you're always behind the eight ball from a cash standpoint. I think directionally, there's been a much bigger trend of e-commerce owners going and starting services businesses because they've had that realization, oh shoot, I've been doing this for 7 years and we've grown, but I haven't made any money. And I want the opposite. I want to be able to get money and then start doing the work and start a services business. But there has been kind of a number of, and maybe even more recently, agency owners, I think probably some that we mutually follow on Twitter, that have had success scaling CPG brands. They've got all the institutional knowledge of seeing scores, if not hundreds of clients. Like they've got all that data. Do you think that is kind of a incredible edge, having all the reps of seeing the client work to say like, okay, yeah, this is the white space that I can go and execute against and start a brand?
Yeah, I think it's, in starting a brand, you have to have some unfair advantage from some standpoint, right? And that can be IP or product, but really that's a lot harder and a lot few and far between than you actually see in the CPG space. You can have an unfair advantage from a distribution standpoint. So say you're a creator with 4 million subs on YouTube about car parts. It's like, great, I go launch a car part brand. I immediately have this audience that buys in. Or you can have an informational unfair advantage, right? Which is, hey, I ran a paid marketing agency for the past 10 years. I know the best in class ways to scale a brand. I know in this category what kind of ROAS I can expect and what my CPAs are going to be. And then I can reverse engineer the entire business based off that being my customer acquisition channel. So it's not surprising that I think we probably see a lot of, mutual friends and people who we know who come from that paid marketing world saying, hey, I'm going to go start this brand in this space. And I think it's an indicator that they have the skill to do it, but they've also seen that white space opportunity and know how to make the math work.
I was on a call with an agency owner recently, and they said it's really hard to retain clients because e-commerce founders expect the world. And for that exact reason, they're actually surprisingly easy to win. So it's a really hard retention business, but there's so much switching that happens that if you can kind of he didn't necessarily say overpromise, but everyone's always looking for the world, and if you can tell them that you're going to try, I know that you're kind of more on the brand and creative side than the performance marketing side, but I'm curious, just what do you think of that? That it's a space that's easy to win clients, but really hard to retain clients.
Yeah, I think in the as someone that's on the brand side that has hired a lot of agencies, whether in email marketing, performance marketing, SEO, um, from the ecom side or from the kind of CPG side, you have to be so good at every single one of these facets of the business. There's really not a whole lot of room for error the way that there might be in software. And what I mean by that is you just have such great margins, and you can allow for such a high customer acquisition cost, and you have such great retention with your own customers. They say, okay, if we like hired this email marketing agency and we spent like 15K with them this month and like they didn't really do much for us, it's okay because we're like a 2 million monthly recurring revenue business and we have like 6 employees, like it'll be okay. Whereas you really don't have that in the e-com space. So I think the second that brands feel like they're not getting a return on the investment that they've put in, they are quick to kind of switch and say, hey, we need a better team with better creative who's going to run a better strategy for us and just focused on our business. So it's this kind of like challenging audience to service, I think, meaningfully over the long period.
Today, I want to tell you about Move Supply Chain. We recently engaged them to look at additional options outside of Vietnam when the 46% tariffs were slapped on for our accessories business. They go and run an RFP process with dozens of manufacturers to get you sample ready on at least 2 backup vendors. Their operations team is based out of the Philippines, so an affordable cost, but as importantly, they're on the same time zone as our target Asian manufacturers. Move Supply Chain has deep supply chain experience with Western brands, including many CPG and D2C startups that you would know. We love working with them. MoveSupplyChain.com. Go check it out. I feel like, Ashwin, you're one of the most interesting people in the space. You're a marketeer. You've got your own branding agency. You're a B2B influencer that has got a growing audience. You own and operate a brand. I feel like you're the Benjamin Franklin of the CPG world. Is there like a flavor of that you like more than others, or is it just, hey, I find that the portfolio lifestyle is the most interesting way to operate and to live?
I think that the way that I like to think about this, I heard this interesting phrase from a friend who is a doctor, and he was kind of talking about what they say in med school. They have this phrase, learn one, do one, teach one. And so it's the idea that you learn the concept in the classroom, then you do the surgery or the practice, and then you go teach it back to your peers. And it's this kind of virtuous cycle that reinforces knowledge in this kind of upward trajectory. And when I think about the agency work, the brand, and then the content, it follows a very similar path for me. The agency is a place for me to learn. The brand is a place for me to do. And then the content is a place for me to teach. And with each of these, with each reps, with each piece of content, each brand we launch, each thing I'm operating from a brand standpoint, it just, I think, pushes me up from a knowledge standpoint. And as much as I can share with other people, I'm happy to. So that's kind of how I think about it. And there's aspects of each one of these things that I like and dislike. And so it balances everything out for me.
Speaking of teaching and learning, to move the conversation to AI, is AI in your daily workflow? Are there good use cases for brands that you've seen?
So AI is in my daily workflow. I spend several hours a day with ChatGPT. It knows everything about me and my businesses and what I'm doing kind of on a consistent basis. I'll give you a kind of tactical example of how I've been using it as of late or in the past couple of days. With one of my brands, we did about 35 customer interviews with some of our top customers who've just been buying our product every single month. So we did informational interviews with them. How did they hear about the product? Why did they like it? What do they dislike? How would they recommend it to a friend? So on. And it's this kind of unstructured data, right? It's just Q&A that we're having with them. So we do all these interviews and we have all of our notes in 35 pages of Google Docs. So what I did is I took those Google Docs and then I uploaded them to ChatGPT. And I basically, gave it a prompt, think like this, and then analyze patterns in here. What would you say are the most compelling USPs of the product? Who is our audience? Give me some analysis here. And it gave me a great kind of structured table of this is what your marketing matrix should look like, and this is what your voice of customer should look like. And I'm like, okay, great. Keep this in mind. Now, here is a screenshot of our Amazon PDP, all of our carousel images, and our Amazon and our ecom homepage. Based on what you know about our customers and some of these insights here, see where there are gaps in our language. What are we missing in terms of what we're communicating? And it said, okay, these 3 modules on your Amazon page are great. These 2 don't make sense. You need to rework them in this way. And so it's this kind of really um, that's a kind of analysis that I would do myself. That would probably take me, call it, 3-4 days of kind of like full days of work. Call it like 36 hours, 40 hours of work to do all of that. Now I've drastically compressed that time to an hour. And then it's like, and then I say, okay, great, we should update those modules. What do you think those modules should communicate? Then it'll do that for me. And then I won't go so far as to generate the entire mock-up from ChatGPT because it's just frankly not there. But I'll use it for some visual direction. Oh, great. What visuals do you think would make sense here? Then I'll go find the visuals and then mock up those actual assets themselves. But I find it tremendously helpful.
How much of that feedback do you agree with? Do you agree with 100% of the suggestions, 60% of the suggestions? Because one of the traps that I think I sometimes fall into is like, I get a little bit lazy on my own critical thinking. I'm just like, oh, okay, these outputs are pretty good.
Mhm.
Let's just move forward with them. Thus, if I was doing the original thinking to start, maybe it could be worse, but I'd almost wonder if it'd be better.
Yeah, there is this I end up doing a lot of copy copywriting and copy work, whether that's in designing ads, writing scripts for content, or generating assets and landing pages. And so I'll always do the first pass at that. I'll always write down what I think it should be. Like, hey, here are the 5 reasons why. This is who we're speaking to. This is how we're speaking to them. And then I'll kind of double check that. Let me see what the outputs of GPT are. And it is very close. And sometimes it's better. I think it's also a matter of how you prompt and how you push it back and forth, and you kind of have it gut check some things. So I think you have to come in with some skill or perspective or knowledge first to know if what you're getting out is good or bad. But it is speeding up a lot of my own workflows in a positive way.
Yeah, I was sitting with one of my partners the other day and had the realization that I just wasn't pushing it hard enough.
Mhm.
Like I would stop at the like first iteration or second iteration and not kind of keep pushing it for more, where he would just keep on going and be like, no, but tell me more, be more specific. I actually don't fully agree. Think like this, now think like that.
Mhm.
And that was just like a very foreign behavior because like I almost treat it like a conversational person, and like in real life I just wouldn't necessarily dig or be as critical or like be as nitpicky,
Yeah.
so that's definitely kind of a new learned behavior for me.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And are there any kind of novel applications of AI that you've seen your clients experiment with?
I mean, I think there's a lot of people. You and I probably have both seen this. Just a lot of, especially on the paid side, a lot of AI generated ads or scripts. So I think there's a few things. I think one, there is with a lot of performance marketing right now, video performs great. Generating video is a lot more work and effort than generating an image where it's like, hey, our product versus their product. Here are the 3 differences or benefits. So with a video, kind of historically, you have to say, okay, here's what the script is. Then I need a person to record the script. Then I need to edit it. And I need to like maybe toss in some green screens or some B-roll footage. It can take quite a significant amount of time and resources for that end-to-end thing to happen. So I know some brands that are doing that entire process end to end in AI, where everything is AI generated, the script, the VO, all of the B-roll footage. But I've also seen agencies and brands just do AI pieces of that. So they say, hey, we're going to do all of the script writing with AI, but then we're going to hand that off to the founder of the company. And then they're going to read this script. And we just know that script is going to be so good because it's trained on all of these other ad scripts that have performed really well. So I think those are probably some more common use cases that I'm seeing now. I don't know that they're necessarily all too novel because many brands are kind of doing this now. But yeah, that's kind of what I've seen.
And then Forge today, like, what's the most common type of work that you're doing? Why are people coming to you versus other agencies?
Brand identity and brand strategy work for new brands or brands that have been out there for maybe a couple of years and they went to market with a V1 and now they say, hey, we've learned a whole lot and we want to refresh. That is predominantly the work that we do at Forge as brand strategy, brand identity work in the kind of CPG consumer space. Why they come to us over the hundreds of other agencies that also do this work. I think as you alluded to, I make a lot of content, and so that naturally draws in a lot of people who are in the consumer space, and then they find out about the agency, or I highlight some of the work that we've done, and they come in through that as a funnel.
What I want to tell you about today is Parker credit cards. Look, there are multiple subreddits dedicated to credit cards, points hacking, and cashback, and I get that. But what do entrepreneurs really want in today's market? Helping managing their payback windows when acquisition starts ramping. With Parker credit cards, you get up to 90-day repayments on ad spend, so helping you on your cash conversion rather than having all that upfront ad spend before revenue starts coming in. Parker allows you to spend aggressively while still managing cash flow, including meta spend. So instead of hunting for best points or a cashback program, realize that the best ROI is to be able to increase your ad spend without hurting cash flow. Go and check them out. Parker credit cards at getparker.com. Parker is a financial technology company, not a bank. The Parker Commercial Credit MasterCard is issued by Patriot Bank NA, member of FDIC, pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. There's so much brand noise. Thousands of protein options, hundreds of gut health options, thousands of stretchy apparel. How do you break through the noise from a messaging and brand standpoint?
I made a video about this last week, so I'll kind of recap. These thoughts are kind of top of mind, and I was basically saying there's two sides of this conversation that I want to have because taken to its logical conclusion, it's not a great thing. We just have a world where there's just like a ton of shit. We've like overproduced stuff and overconsumed stuff. But to answer this question specifically, a lot of brand owners think product differentiation and innovation is the most important thing, right? We need to be super new, super novel. And I would actually say that product differentiation is quite overrated and audience differentiation is underrated. And so by that, I mean, I'll give you an example of this. There is a shorts brand called 10,000, and then there's a shorts brand called Rhone. Both of them started around the same time, 2016, 2017. Lululemon was already out. Vuori was out. The mass market brands, Nike, Under Armour, Puma, all of these guys, they're making running shorts. They're making workout shorts. There's no dearth of options for these shorts. But 10,000 comes out, and their entire positioning was towards almost like the military training adjacent guys, right? The guys who are listening to the Jocko Willink podcast every morning, who are just lifting incredibly hard and heavy. And their whole aesthetic, their brand partnerships were all with kind of former Marines or former SEALs. And that was the audience and voice and messaging that they really wanted to dominate. With a very similar product, Rhone exists, but Rhone was like, we're for the New York, LA, Miami guy who works hard, he lifts moderately hard, he plays hard, and it's clean, credible, and modern. And both of them built very solid businesses, right? Selling effectively the same product in an already saturated sea of products, just through that audience differentiation. And so I think so the way that brands are really standing out now is really by niching down from an audience standpoint and owning a specific idea or speaking to a specific group of people for a long enough period of time and then broadening that funnel.
Do you typically help your clients identify that audience? Like, are they usually coming to you with a product differentiation, but then a horizontal audience, and you're saying, hey, no, no, like the product is compelling, but like we need to niche down the audience, and we'll help you do that discovery?
Yeah, I mean that's the crux of what we do. I almost think the actual design work itself. A lot of people look at brand agencies and they think, hey, the guys are designers, you're artists. And I would say, hey, okay, that's like a piece of it. There's actually a lot of people who are better at design, like the tactical design execution than we are. But where we spend a lot of time and what I focus a lot on is the actual strategy. So understanding, what does this landscape look like? Where is there the actual opportunity? How can we say something different? And that needs to be crystal clear before you ever get into the design work, because design is a reflection of the strategy or idea or concept that you have.
Is it possible, just to push on it a little bit, that because there are so many brands, that there isn't, like, even niching down, there isn't enough audiences that haven't already been tapped? Or is the answer, then you just need to niche down even more?
No, I think there's many more, I think, audiences that are out there than we as chronically online younger, younger, older millennials and Gen Zs think there are, because we're all making and selling products to one another. But I don't know, is the boomer male golf market tapped out from a brand standpoint? I think there's probably a lot of legacy brands that speak to them, but are there any new brands or emerging brands speaking to them in a different way? But yes, is the 30-year-old, you know, female beauty category saturated? Yes, I think they're being hit from every angle in every category with every type of product.
We have a mutual friend, Sharif Hamid, who's a friend of the pod, who connects influencers and celebrities with CPG businesses. Speaking of kind of audience edge, audience differentiation, do you think that that playbook has been saturated? There's too many celebrity-backed brands that consumers don't really care about it anymore? Or do you think it's still pretty early?
I believe in the efficacy of creator-led brands, and I know, WME, CAA, they you call it celebrity, but they also do a lot of like creator partnerships that are just large pseudo celebrities of sorts. So, tactical example, we're talking Mr. Beast, we're talking the Paul brothers, and why I say I believe in their efficacy more than the celebrity is because by they are creators by nature. That's how they came to fame, by building audiences online. They know how to hack attention, get attention, and build awareness for a thing. They built themselves. They will then build products and belief and hype around those products. Celebrities, on the hand, kind of traditional Hollywood celebrity models, didn't necessarily grow off of the back of being able to be great at commanding attention, right? They became famous because they starred in a great movie. Jake Paul and Logan Paul any day will get more traction on a Instagram reel than Leonardo DiCaprio will, just because he doesn't really know how to make content that way, right? That speaks to people on that format, on that channel. And so I think there are these creators work really well as distribution channels for their business, and they have outsized returns when it comes to the marketing of those products. The celebrity backed brands, I think in some categories, if the celebrity is paired appropriately with the product and space and opportunity, they can amplify things that a great business already has. But there's a lot of those celebrity backed brands that are, people see it as a money grab. There isn't any authentic connection between that celebrity and the space that they've entered. So short answer, more bullish on the creator backed brands, but I still think there is some opportunities in the celebrity space, of course.
Yep. Yep. Sharif says something interesting that, to your exact point, there's just much more fandom with creators because they're just engaging with them almost daily, as opposed to like, great, I see the Leonardo DiCaprio film once every 2 years. It's amazing. I'm fully engrossed for 2 hours, and I, find some connectivity there, but it's not every day. But speaking of that authenticity bit, I'm curious for your take on, yeah, Mr. Beast and Feastables. Like, I'm not deep in his content. I've seen a few of his YouTube videos, but like, should he have launched something different? Like, I don't even know what it would be, but like, is chocolate really the thing that he is most authentic to? I think about a different comparison. Like this guy, Kevin, who runs this business called Epic Gardening, had a YouTube channel for a long time about gardening, now runs a mid eight figure, or maybe high eight figure, I don't know, like gardening, he sells gardening supplies and kind of gardening related stuff. Like that is deeply authentic, deeply connected to. Was it just that Mr. Beast's audience was too big that he needed to find like something, yeah, authentic to chocolate? Just speak to that.
Yeah, I think the calculus there is like chocolate is a big TAM. There's no education that we have to do on it. I hit 400 million people in the world. Like, yeah, that seems easy enough to go like bring to life. And there's a playbook for bringing that to life. Um, if we were to really look at like concepts that would be authentic and maybe novel to him, like a modified escape room almost feels more in line with Mr. Beast and like the crazy things that he does. Like, we're gonna lock this person in a room for 4 days until they can do this, right? So these kind of like larger than life challenges, some kind of physical experience, is what I would align more closely with him. But then you look at a concept like that, it's like, hey, we really have to go all in on bringing that business to life, and there's no playbook, and it's a lot more challenging. Um, so yeah, I think it was just an easier opportunity for Mr. Beast to go chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah. You're obviously very close to the emerging brand world. You're seeing stuff come up all the time. Are there a couple of emerging brands that you're really excited about, or a couple of trends that you're really excited about?
And I think this is probably a recency thing. There are a few brands. There's a brand called Son and Daughter. There's a brand called Slather. They're both sunscreen brands. I think both coming out of Australia. And why I think that is interesting is if you look at the kind of sunscreen aisle or space, especially here in the States, it's like you have Sunbum, which was like, okay, that was like the cool challenger brand that started 20 years ago. Then before that, there's Banana Boat, and it's just like these P&G brands, right? They dominate the entire aisle. And the first brand that was a kind of challenger in the space was Vacation, right? That really leaned fully into the branding and the ethos of like 80s kind of Miami culture, and they made a lot of fun, did fun form factors and scents. So I think they brought some interest there, but they're almost just like a marketing company first that happens to have these products on the back end. And so kind of was looking at the sunscreen space a little bit, and I'm like, hey, there really hasn't been like much in terms of like challenger in the space, and there is some regulations around bringing new products to market. If you modify the formulations, what can and cannot be called a sunscreen, especially in Australia versus the United States. But I've seen now a couple of emerging brands come up that have really fun, modern, loud kind of branding that's just not as stale as Banana Boat. So it's fun. It's something that's caught my eye. And I think to that point, there are these categories that are maybe overlooked, or there are these existing incumbents, or maybe some regulations that have been in place for a long time where people are just like, space is full. I'm not going to get involved there. And it seems like sunscreen was one of those spaces. And now there's more people getting into it. So I like these kind of categories where there have just been players in there for a long time. No one's done anything different. And then these challenger brands are coming in.
Why do we love Numeral? Well, here's the good, the bad, the ugly. The good is that over 1,000 e-commerce store owners just like you use them for sales tax compliance, including some pretty big brands like Ridge, Emmy, Nomad, and Graza. The bad is that none of us got into this to spend a ton of time on sales tax and admin, which is why Numeral is able to help you in 5 minutes or less get full coverage, deal with registrations, ongoing filings, and compliance. It just happens in the background. And the ugly is that not a lot of store owners know that sales tax is actually personally guaranteed. Said another way, that the states could end up coming after you personally if you're not on top of it. Even a modest $5 million store owner could have Nexus in 20 or 30 states. Again, Numeral helps you stay compliant, and they even guarantee their work. That's why we love them. Go and check them out at numeralhq.com. As we head towards a wrap, Ashwin, to share a couple of wins, what's the biggest win in Ashwin's world of the last year, either in brand, in agency, maybe for one of your clients?
I'll give you a different answer, which is not any of those three neat buckets. There were great wins, and I think they were a lot of fun. But I think one of the salient things that really stands out to me from last year is I did a I was in LA over winter break, and the day before New Year's Day, so on New Year's Eve at 5 p.m., I put up an Instagram story and I said, "Hey, I'm in LA. There's a coffee shop down the street. I'm going to the coffee shop." This is the suburbs of LA. It's this place called Montrose, right? If you live in LA, you probably haven't even heard of Montrose. It's like Northeast. And I put up this Instagram story. I'm like, I'm going to be here at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning getting coffee. If you're in the area, just come by, right? And it's New Year's Day at 9 o'clock. And I said, I'll be there from 9 to 10 o'clock. And I go there the next day. And in that hour, about 20 people came through to have coffee in this like very small coffee shop, not in
Wow.
Santa Monica, not in Venice. And it was really cool that they came from kind of all over LA. One guy drove an hour and a half, and he's like,
Wow.
I've been following your content for the past 2 years. I've been building this brand. It's been so helpful to me. And so it's, putting stuff, I think, on the internet, you'll see like, oh, this video got 2,000 views or this video got 1 million views. And it becomes an abstraction after some time. And like, you'll be like, oh, only 2,000 views, or like, no one saw this. But then you meet 20 people in person who are like referencing videos or concepts that you shared. And they're like, that was so helpful or instrumental to me. Was a really cool feeling. And, gets rid of that abstract layer of the internet where we're all just behind keyboards. So that was a huge win, and I think was just reaffirming to me around some of the content, just having fun with it and trying to help people as they're all kind of building their own things.
What a great story. What's the thing that you're most excited about at the moment, whether it's tech, a tactic that you're playing around with, a channel you're experimenting with, a product that you're going to launch?
God, it's really I know we talked about AI. It feels like everyone on Twitter is talking about it all the time, but every day I'm interacting with all of my friends and I'm like, hey, are you using you're a consultant. Are you using deep research for this? They're like, no, what's that? I'm like, come on, you have to be using this. And it feels like in so many facets of my life, both on the personal front and the work front, it is opening up this world of just leverage and opportunity that is speeding everything up and making everything better for me. That I am just personally very excited about. It's, I think, allowing me to split my time across all of these things and still maintain some kind of sanity or effectiveness. So yeah, I think a PSA that if you're not playing around with it actively on a daily basis, you need to be.
So true. Where should people find you, and is there anything that you're seeking from the universe?
I am Shwinnabego across channels. You can find me, DM me, comment. Is there anything I am seeking from the universe? Yes, I don't know, everything and nothing,
Ashwin, so fun to chat. Really appreciate you hopping on and look forward to next time.
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
Thanks for tuning into the show with Ashwin. Please go and give him a follow on TikTok, IG, and X. We're now 6 episodes in. If you have a favorite, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. DM, comment, Twitter, LinkedIn, any feedback, types of guests you'd like to have on, types of topics. Thanks again for joining and look forward to having you on the next one.